Good evening, good morning, good night, good day, wherever you are in the world. Today's BNS podcast is very different from everything I've done ever so far, in the sense that it involves a lot of issues that relate to politics. For those of you who follow us for quite a while, you know we try to stay out of politics, but this time around, we can't afford to sit on the fence. So I've brought two heavy hitters, people who are very much involved in the political world, as we're going to look at what both candidates are taking place in the United States of America. We have an election coming up in 2 days, literally 2 days. And it is, I know everybody says this, but to me, it is the most important election of our lifetime. Ladies and gentlemen, audience, welcome to our podcast for the very first time. Fatmata Berry and Professor Heinz Bull. These guys are definitely the people who I believe that can share more light on this. Welcome, guys, to the BNS podcast. Fatmata and Professor Bull, thank you
But
so
thank you.
much
It's a
for
privilege.
your time. Let's start with, well, I say ladies first, but let me start this time with Professor Bull. Prof, it's a big election. It's a very important one, I'd say. It is an election that is transformational in every sense of the word. What is most important about this election over the ones we've seen so far for our audience who don't follow American politics?
Well, thank you very much, Ike. This election is about the fundamentals of democracy and the rule of law and America's presence in global politics. It's a U.S. national election, but it's truly a national referendum on democracy as we see it. Therefore, it's the most consequential for that reason. And I would just like to say this on any given elections in the past. I do admire the Republican side, I do admire the Democratic side when civility is at the core of any election. And so the Republicans by nature are not bad people, the Democrats are by nature not bad people. But we have reached the point in a transformational way that could be negative if a certain group of people come in and this party, the ticket that we see right now, does not bode well for democracy in the United States and to be the leader of democracy across the world. And for this reason, that one is important. And on women's rights, which is the second important piece, to undermine the fundamental rights of women, for the government to seem to be more in tune into the lives and privacy of women. It's scary because once you start undermining the fundamental rights of a group of people, where does it stop? And that is the issue. The issue also is about how Africans and immigrants and different nationalities are treated. America has been a welcoming place, and most of these folks who are now in politics, if you trace their background, you trace it to Ireland, you trace it to Italy, you trace it to different countries in Europe and nationality. Even in the US Congress, we have several different nationalities. If they break it down, I'm sure in significant percentage, probably 10, 15, 20%, maybe first generation or second generation immigrants. And so those three issues are at the core of this election. The other pertinent issues Americans have dealt with, the economy, inflation, and all of those things in a very civil manner. But this time around, it seems as if it's more of an enemies list, it's more of a revenge, and immigrants are targeted, women are targeted, and the fundamentals of democracy seems to be undermined.
Wow. Thanks, Prof. Um, Women's rights, women's freedom. There's only one woman on the panel today, so I think I'll take it to Fatmata. Barrister, you are an immigration lawyer, so we're going to talk about that after a while. But as a woman, where do you see why do you think the issue of women and freedom has become a political issue?
Um, can you hear me well?
Clearly, we can.
Um, I honestly believe that it goes in with the whole making America great again. When you listen, if you listen very carefully, the time when that this ticket talks about, that Donald Trump talks about, that he likes, is in the 1800s. And in the 1800s, the only people who had actual rights were white men with property. They had the full rights. Women didn't have the right, not even white women. They didn't have the rights that we have today. There has been a concerted effort and a focus on limiting women's rights for decades, right? They've put in steps, and they finally became successful with the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And I honestly believe they want to entrench that in the Constitution and make sure that at the end of the day, women do not have the freedom to do whatever they want to do. And you hear it in the narrative, you hear it in the way things are done. And you see the quickness of changes at the state level after Roe v. Wade that has led to deaths, women's deaths, not, and it's not one or two. Another one just died in Texas. Another one just died in Texas, a young lady. And it's happening on a regular basis. And if we're not careful, it's going to be just like it used to be. So this is going back again in time and trying to make it what it was. And the only people who liked that greatness were white men like Donald Trump, men with money, and strong men. And that's what they want to take us back to.
So you're saying that, in a nutshell, that the right for a woman to take control of her own body is at stake in this election. Is that what you're saying?
It is more than at stake. It is, it's already happening in many states. And if Donald Trump and his cohorts get into office, they will make it a national referendum, a national ban. It will be that thing that says all women, regardless of your race, your color, your geography, your belief system, whatever it is, this rule will apply to you. You will have no right to your bodily autonomy. Like there's nothing. You will have to have permission to make decisions about what you do when you go to the hospital. They literally want to have access to your medical records. They literally want to be the ones to tell you when and how you can get your medical services provided to you as a woman. You cannot be in a room as we are now in many places by yourself and your doctor and you say, this is what I want. They will be there. They meaning the government. They meaning the men that will be in the White House if Donald Trump wins the White House.
Well, why is it important to them, Dr. Bull and Fatoumata? Why is it important that government wants to interfere into this? What is the real reason behind it? Is it, I don't know. Why would a man be so composed and interested in a woman's right to her own body? So what is the essence of it? Is there something they're feeling that maybe there are too many kids out there, or immigrants are giving birth to too many children? Or what is it exactly that's actually driving this narrative, as making this particular party or this wing of the party to actually say we want to interfere?
Well, there are several reasons. I mean, I think you just alluded to one. One is politics. They're playing to the evangelical Christians, and that's the faith about life as a whole. And as Christians, you don't believe that you should take away life, and whatever life gives you traditionally is a gift from God. And it's a political play, and it plays into those who have strong religious beliefs. The second piece is relating to funding structure, and it goes back, ties to this religious piece that you cannot use government money. It used to be you cannot use federal money to do this, but now he's saying even if you have your own money in your pocket, you still cannot just use your insurance to pay for this. But I think, let me just expound upon something, because when we talk about abortion, there is a sense of frivolity and prostitution and wildlife associated with it without explaining why abortion is important. People don't even know that most of these women who are dying are legally married to their husbands, okay? And these people wanted children, okay? they're dying to have kids, but it reached a point where the pregnancy became a problem and the life of the mother and the wife, that it needs to be probably aborted to save the life of the mother. So these are not just young teenagers running around and just getting pregnant and say, I'm going to get abortion.
Right.
These are focused adults, husband and wife, been married for 5, 10 years, finally got pregnant. It's a difficult pregnancy, aborted, and they need to do some medical emergencies to remove the fetus and all of that stuff. The Republicans said, no, we want to make sure that you're actually dying or about to die before you could get this intervention. And if you're a doctor, you are Mrs. X, your husband takes you in and you're bleeding, the husband says, save my wife. If you're the doctor, if you don't go through the procedure, you may be committing a crime. And so that is an issue. And there are other underlying issues based on population shifts and all of those things they are looking at and how it benefits certain groups of people. But mostly it's political, 2 is religious, 3 is just the financial piece. But they give this idea that it's just a group of frivolous girls and just go and get them pregnant and go get an abortion, get pregnant next week, get an abortion. And all the cases we've seen and what Fatimata has talked about, these are married women, and there are cases of incest, within family. Younger kids, 10, 12, 11, 13, being raped by family member. And you cannot carry such pregnancy. Imagine you're a woman knowing a man raped you and something is growing inside of you and it was without your permission. You have to make a decision about that. And so these are all the fundamental principles about that. But because these are men making these decisions and pressing it upon the larger population, they don't experience it, they don't feel it. And the woman has a right to her body. And it's important that, that with all the medical facilities available in America, our doctors are trained that if a woman comes into an emergency room bleeding from a pregnancy, you have to have a medical treatment. You just don't give them a pain medication and say, go home and wait until it gets serious before you come back. That's what the law says. And if you do premature treatment, you could be jailed for life as a medical doctor. Wow. In places like Texas. And that's what the law says. So the medical practitioners are scared. But, it's politics, money, religion, all mixed in. And, and when people are into it, it's difficult to explain the implications of that.
And awesome. I would very just want to add, everything Dr. Bull has said is definitely true. But I don't want us to sort of leave it want there to be some clarity that a woman's right to her body is her right to her body. So that means she gets to choose whatever she wants to do with her body. If I'm 18, I get pregnant, I don't want to have a baby, I should have the right to say, I don't want to have a baby. It's my body. I'm the one that's going to be carrying that baby. I'm the one that's going to be going through that body changes. Or I want to go to school, and it takes 2. She doesn't get pregnant from the air, right? It wasn't, it wasn't just.
There was someone else involved in it.
Somebody else was involved, right? But the reality is, as the woman, you are the one that has to go through that whole process for the 9, 10, whatever it is, 8, 9 months of having a baby. I've never gone through it, obviously, but you go through a lot. And if you cannot afford to do it either financially, mentally, physically, you should have the right to say, I can't. Because the reality is the same people who are saying you must have that baby will not help you with that baby. Not financially, not in any way at all. So, women need to feel just like no man wants to be told when you're going to have a child. No man wants to be told when you're going to have a child. No man wants to be told you have to have a vasectomy or you have to lock it up until we think you're old enough and you're mature enough to have a child. Right. No man wants that. Wow. But that's what they're asking for women.
Well, thank you for explaining this, because I know a lot of my audience will be wondering why is abortion so big of an issue. And like Kofi just asked the question while Dr. Boo was talking, we put it up there. It just goes to show that it's just not just the word abortion as we see it. It's the bigger whole reproductive system and the right to a woman to choose what to do with her own body. Thank you. I told you guys this is the best to explain this. Let's move away from that for a second because I know this is a very hot topic and it's a big one in this election. Let's talk about immigration. Fatmata, the numbers you hear out there are 16,000 criminals come into the U.S. through the southern border on a regular day. Now, how true those numbers are, heaven knows, right? But there's a big influx of people that come into the country, and some of them are legitimately running away from the danger in their own homeland or run away from being tortured. I know that those cases are real, and there's some cases of people just wanting to look for a better life and coming across. Mm-hmm. You are an immigration lawyer. What is your stand with this open border concept? Is it real, or is it something that should be addressed?
First, there is no such thing as an open border. Okay. There has never been an open border. There never will be an open border in the United States of America. Okay. There is a process when you come through the border to determine if you have what's called a credible fear to file for asylum and other benefits, right? The problem has always been that the immigration process here in the U.S., it is self-funding. So which means that their funding comes from themselves, right? They have not had enough people to do the thing that they need to do at the border that would reduce what looks like, as they like to say, an invasion. There is no invasion, okay? I'm not just an immigration attorney, but I'm also an immigration law activist, right? And advocate. So I also work a lot in the policy aspect of it, not just representing people. Mm-hmm. And this is the reality. The face of the border is changing. It's becoming darker. It's looking like more like us, right?
When you say us, you mean Black people, Africans?
Black people, Africans are coming through the border. Many. And the change is such that everyone now is very concerned about the border. Now more concerned than they've ever been before. It's become,
when it was maybe Latinos or people
right, when it was more lighter and browner, yes, people were concerned, but now there's this deep-seated, and you hear it when Donald Trump talks about Haitians, talks about Congolese people, right? When he's talking about Haitians, he's talking about all the Black Islander people. When he's talking about Congolese people, he's talking about all the African people. He's not just talking about Congolese people. He's trying to send a clear message, and his people are hearing it and they're receiving it. And we need to receive that message. And the fact of the matter is the U.S. immigration policy is such that just as we are here in the U.S., there's a lot of anti-Black racism that is deep-seated in this country, and it transfers onto the U.S. immigration policy. Africans do not receive the same amount of visa approvals as other countries do, never have. And additionally, even when they have these electronic things they're talking about, how J.D. Vance talked about the using electronic stuff to just allow people to come in. Not true, number one, especially for us as darker skinned people. The electronic thing itself doesn't read our faces as well as it does the lighter skinned people. So we have a little bit less acceptance, right? Because it's a way to sort of find out and have you go through that process faster. So you can come, they can decide yay or nay. And if you can't go through that process, you don't come through. And so for us, it's a little harder to capture our facial identity. So immigration, the way it's set up, if we're talking to Black people and Africans, it is no different than any system here in the United States. It is not necessarily, immigration is not to benefit the people. Immigration is to benefit the receiving nation. And yes, there are times of where they want to help, definitely, like the TPS and things like that. But generally, immigration is what can you bring that's beneficial to this nation? But because this nation and globally, there's a deep-seated anti-Blackness, Black countries tend to have less access or receive less benefit when it comes to immigration, no matter where it is they're going in the world. But here, same thing.
Wow. So thanks for that explanation. So you're saying basically in a nutshell that we don't get most Black people don't get the same fair chance as people from other parts of the world when it comes to the immigration policy. Now, if that's the case, then immigration is big in this election, and both candidates are actually saying there is a problem. We need to fix it. What's the difference then if someone's going to vote based on immigration? Any one of you can take.
There is a problem. Definitely. There's a problem.
Right.
But it's how you fix it and how you address it is the difference, right? One is talking about deporting people who have been in this country forever. I came here at the age of 11 years old. I did not get my green card until right before law school, from age 11 to age 27.
Wow.
All right. So in between there, I lived a life of limbo.
Wow.
You hear me speak. I've only gone to Sierra Leone once in my life since I've been here since 1984. Wow. So imagine if I'm one of those people of the millions, and now you want to send me to a country that I know nothing about. That's what Donald Trump is talking about. These are people who are law-abiding people. When they say criminals, and they're not criminals, right? People may come over, as they say, illegally.
Illegally, correct. Yeah.
But here's the difference. Immigration is not a criminal. It's not criminal. That's why you don't have a right to counsel and so on and so forth that you do if you commit a crime here in the U.S. Even as an undocumented person, if you commit a crime in the U.S., you have a right to counsel.
That's correct.
But as an undocumented person, if you're detained by immigration, you do not have a right to counsel because it's not criminal offense. It's not a criminal offense, right? They just treat them like criminals. They detain them like criminals, and they mistreat them like criminals, but they are not criminals. Okay? Right. And because of that, there's this misconception and these playing with words and so on and so forth and making people sound like they're horrible human beings. You can go look up the Pew Research and it'll tell you immigrants commit the least amount of crimes. That's
correct. I did a little research on that, and I found out that that's true. Those numbers are not real numbers.
They're not real.
They're not real numbers, and I know that yes, there is some little pockets of them committing crime, but just like
everybody else,
every part of America, there is pockets of crime taking place, and they're not mostly done by people who have come into the country illegally. Thanks for that explanation. It's just a matter of it's just because of time. I know he said Donald Trump said that when he comes into power, he will carry out one of the worst or the largest deportation exercises that America has ever seen in its history. And I believe there's a program called DACA, and people who are in DACA might get caught up in also those kind of impacts. Wow. Let's talk about the battleground states because I know we don't have much time. We have about 1,000 people watching live as we speak right now. The battleground states. You're in one of the battleground states, North Carolina. 10 out of 11 times, 10 out of 11 times, the Republican Party have won that state, right? But the impression is that you guys, I want to believe that you are on the Democratic side, need to win it. Why and how are you going to plan to do that?
Well, I could state up front that Kamala Harris is going to win North Carolina. And there are several reasons why she's going to win North Carolina. I just did an analysis this morning. First of all, the Republicans have outvoted the Democrats by only 41,000 at the end of early voting. by only 41,000 votes. At one time, it was up to 53,000. The margins dropped yesterday to 41,000 votes. Under a normal election, that difference is difficult to overcome. Under a very normal election, coming out of early voting with 41,000 vote lead, it is difficult to overcome. However, we're beginning to see a shift from Republicans who are voting against Republicans, Donald Trump. The Nikki Haley votes, North Carolina is just next to South Carolina, where Nikki Haley is from. The Nikki Haley votes are for real. They are going to vote against Trump. And then there are Republicans who are so sick and tired of all this dark side and all this undermining of democracy, who are not going to vote for Harris, but will not vote for a presidential candidate. So that number that you see right there, I'm projecting that about 5% of the 1.4 million people who have voted Republicans would either don't put any presidential candidate, do a write-in, or vote for Harris. 5% of that 1.4 million is 73,000. Immediately, it washes that lead that is happening. And in North Carolina, the independent votes have outperformed the Democrats and the Republicans. Right now, they are leading in early voting in North Carolina, the independent vote. So we don't know exactly where they're going to break. In the past, they would break based on policies and issues. And the issues that we see now are abortion, undermining democracy, immigration, and the economy. Now, the other thing we've seen in North Carolina, women have voted men by 466,000 votes.
Wow.
Which is very outstanding. 466. I just did an analysis this morning. So what does that mean in North Carolina? It means this issue of abortion is going to take center stage. It means this issue of the democracy issue is going to take center stage, and it's happening. And for the first time in the history, also of North Carolina, we've seen the 18 to 25, the Gen Z votes. The college students are interested, very interested in this election, because they understand the implications and ramifications of this election on their future, jobs, the economy, buying a house, and all of those things. And the Republicans have not put in a significant policy portfolio to support this election. They just said, I'll deport immigrants, Asians are eating cats and dogs. She is weak, she is dark. I'm going to do the largest deportation and calling names. Kamala Harris is putting policies forward for these young people to understand. If you want to buy a house, you get $25,000. If you're your first child, you get $5,000 to help you with your child. So I'm seeing this shift, and as I talk to people in North Carolina, I'm seeing it happening. And the numbers show the interest. In Charlotte-Mecklenburg, in Wake County, the largest Democratic county, is over 500,000 votes in one county. There are 4.4 million people have voted. One county alone, Wake, is at 505,000 votes. Charlotte, the second largest, is at 472,000 votes. Technically, two counties almost accounting for almost close to 25% of the vote. And those are Democratic stronghold. Those are Democratic stronghold where Kamala Harris is going to win 70% and above. It's a given. And that's why she keeps coming to the state. And so it's not about political policies anymore in this election. It's about the future of American democracy and being the leader of the free world. So it's no longer that issue. And North Carolina is going to turn blue. And we woke up this morning, she's leading in Iowa. Nobody talked about Iowa. She's a 3-point lead in Iowa, never visited Iowa, because it's a large population of females also, and older population. They've turned out, and Iowa now with about 6 votes. It's in play 2 days before the election, and a 3-point lead almost outside the margins. And so if Iowa is, we don't know what will happen into all these fringe states that we've not gone into. But the way it is shifting in the last 2 days, the world may be surprised. It may be a blowout. That
And
Kamala
that's the
Harris may
surprise.
carry all 7 states.
That's the surprise everyone is looking forward to, I guess, in some cases. I know they said in Georgia, 4 million people already in Georgia voted early. That's a significant amount of numbers that people to go out in Georgia to vote that early. It's really big. 2 more points I want to talk about before we wrap up this. Foreign intervention. There's a lot of foreign intervention. People are injecting all kind of fabricated information, disinformation into the United States to tilt the election on both sides, right? And this is an election where the last time I checked, I'm told that about $600 million have been invested in this election by getting information out, both parties. $600 million just to get information out there. And this is only in PA, Pennsylvania, one state. Why is that a big issue, Fatmata? That the foreign intervention is actually dipping their hands more and more into American politics? And why Pennsylvania? I know you've been there a couple of times, so why Pennsylvania?
Because Pennsylvania is literally the road to the Democratic Party winning this election. That's just the reality, right? And so foreign intervention is focused on making sure that Donald Trump wins this election, because for as long as we've known him, he's been very friendly to people like the Russian president, the Chinese president, Korean. So he's been very friendly with these people, and he thinks of them as strong people. So their ability and their desire to come in is to provide disinformation, misinformation, and sort of like the new thing they had. So supposed Haitian man who said he voted several times
Right, I saw that.
legally. Mm-hmm. Come to find out, even the license was a stock photo, right? And it was on X. And Elon Musk to this day still hasn't put it down, hasn't apologized, nothing. So they are actively trying to come in, and there's a reason why. It gives them access. This is the most powerful country in the world, regardless of all that's happened before with the Trump presidency. It still has what it has, and because of that, you will find people who still want to be able to get in. And unfortunately for us, this country has elected somebody who has given them a way in and has given them an access that they didn't used to have. And they know that if they do enough, he will give them the access they need. And I think that's where all this is coming from. He gives them the idea that, yeah, I'm here for you. The same way he gives the idea to racists and xenophobes and you name it. And he helps them feel validated that you can do this.
I must say, in my over 20-something years living in the United States, I've never seen an election with this amount of darkness, this amount of dispergency, this amount of tension, anxiety on both ends. And it's getting to a point that people want it to come and go. They want to just want to get over and done with it. However, either which way, if they get one candidate or the other, it's for the next 4 years. So I hope that when folks go to the polls this Tuesday, they're very mindful of the important issues and don't vote out of sentiment. I'm told that about 2.5% of the population are still undecided voters. And those are mostly Republicans who might not vote for the vice president, but would not vote for Donald Trump. So chances are they might be sitting at home on that day, or they might go out and vote the wrong candidate. I'm just saying, country first for once. Politics aside, country first. So whoever is listening to this podcast, wherever you are in the world, if you have a right and you can vote in the US election, please put the country first. The country first is more than just politics. And you see a lot of Republicans have come out and taken that stand and saying country first. And also some Democrats have come out also standing with Trump and saying, hey, country first, or whatever it is that party believes in. At this point in time, let's talk about the level of anxiety. How do we speak to our people who are out there when it comes to anxiety. And that's how we're going to end. Fatma, you go first, and then we'll end up with Dr. Bull. Anxiety, because there's anxiety everywhere, and people are like really getting anxious over this whole thing.
So, Dr. Bull and I have the same group that we belong to, and I always turn to him to help uplift us with all the anxiety and stress that we have. So for me, what I do is I get in it. I put all the way in. I'm supposed to be in PA right now, knocking on doors, but woke up not feeling too well, and I didn't really want to get people sick on the bus. But get involved, because for me, at the end of this, I want to feel like I've done all that I could, that I left everything on the table, that I talked to as many people as I can talk to, that I've spoken to people that I know who are sort of like this, and trying to get them to see what it is. But work. And at this stage in time, it's really just time to get people to come out and vote. The time to convince people, I think we're past that. We have 2 days to the final election day. This is just now. People who already know what should be done, get them out. Give people a ride. Get people, make phone calls. You can make phone calls all day today, all day tomorrow, all day Tuesday until they close that door. Be that person at the polls, helping people, telling them about the candidate, and ensuring call the swing states. That is crucial. And don't forget the down ballots, because we need them.
Wow. Yeah, 50,000 volunteers on the Harris campaign, 50,000 people out there knocking on doors. I'm told that as of yesterday, they were knocking on $2,000 per minute. $2,000 per minute. But despite that, Dr. Bull, the election seems to be so close, and the numbers are like not going anywhere. The good news I got ever since this election started yesterday was Fatmata. I was out at an event in DC, and a lady I can't mention her name, she's known as one of the biggest pollsters in the US, said to us, forget the polls. Forget the polls. And that gave me some kind of calmness, like saying, okay, forget these polls, focus on what is going to be at the end of the day after the election comes up. Dr. Bull, you have the last say in the House. Inspire us, pump us up. There are a lot of Africans watching also. If you want to go that route, I see your foundation is in Sierra Leone. End us out.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. As I stated, this election is not only an American election, it's a global election. We're talking about international relations and why foreign money is in. Imagine if Trump wins, the gap between the time they take over to deal with Ukraine, Russia would overrun Ukraine, because there's going to be a significant delay in addressing the Ukraine policy, and that would shift everything. The economy, somebody just posted, is not important. Jobs, they've created so many jobs. Unemployment is at 4.1. Inflation is down to 2 point something. We are buying gasoline now at $2.75. It's the cheapest it's been ever. It's a facade. The economy has nothing to do with it. Yes, there are people who are not getting high-paying jobs because of how the economy is stratified. And immigration is important to the economy because the agricultural side of the American economy is built on immigrants doing all those work to do that. Without them, the American economy at that agricultural side may crumble. But I just want to say, the world is watching where America goes, so is the world. And this is also important for African countries, because Donald Trump, as we know, has this tendency for power and will like to wield more power. And every African leader sitting there watching Donald Trump, if he wins, that's it. They are going to try to be like Trump. And Trump will not intervene in any African country on the side of democracy, because, as we know, based on everything they've said, he's not going to support. So if you're in a country where 75% of Africans are youth and they are looking to shift and to empower themselves to grow, the Trump presidency is not going to support those African youths who are looking to explore, to come to the US, visa immigrations, everything will be down for Africa. and America will not have the same support moving in. And to the people of the United States, as I said, this is not about Republicans and Democrats. This is not a traditional election. This is not about the fundamental conservative policies of the Republicans and the policies of the Democrats. In those days, we sit and argue about policies and stuff in a respectable way. If the Republicans had put up any other candidate outside of Trump, we would not have this fair, because we know if that candidate Republican wins, like the Mitt Romney, the John McCain, all these other folks, it would have been a beautiful America. We lick the wounds and move on, because we know life will go on and it will be a sense of decency. This is going to be abnormal. It's going to be dark. So I say to you, vote your conscience, vote democracy, and the policies become secondary, because America has to lead the world. Thank you.
Fatmata Berry, Dr. Bull, thank you so much for gracing this podcast and the BNS podcast. If you haven't joined us or followed us ever before, it's a good time to go on YouTube or any of our social media handles and join the BNN podcast. Just click the like button, subscribe. We're here every Sunday. Every Sunday we show up and we show strong for the last 3.5 years. Thank you guys for being an awesome, awesome, awesome guest. And in our famous 3 words, love, peace, and more grace. Catch you guys on the other end. Thanks for joining the BNS podcast.